Hello. This is Amy Gardner welcoming you back to the final and third training for coaches and mentors for the 2016 Technovation season. And I am so glad to have you here. And I'm really sad that this is our last day together. But hopefully, we'll continue our momentum and we'll continue meeting on occasion throughout the season so that we can be a nice, solid community and support each other. I just wanted to go over what we had been talking about a little bit. So the first day we met, we talked about the roles that you guys are playing as a mentor or a coach, and we also talked a lot about what the Technovation curriculum and the program is all about. I see a question: is there a link to the materials folder from last night? I can definitely get that to you guys afterwards. I'm going to be sending out a thank you email, and that will have a folder to every single material that we've discussed over the past 3 days. I also see other questions coming up, and I'd like to hold off just a little bit until we get to the portion of the presentation where we're going to talk about App Inventor. So today we will talk about App Inventor. Yesterday we talked about student behaviors. We talked about what it's like to work with middle school students and high school students and how to be an effective mentor or coach. And then we talked a little bit about what the deliverables are going to be and what students can expect. And we looked at Team Amica. They were a group that made it to the finals last year, to the World Pitch Night. So you can use that sort of thing as a benchmark with your students when you all meet. Oh, thanks, Allie, for posting the link. So Allie Holmes is also here. She's joining us, and she's in the chat room helping me respond to all of your questions because we have a lot of questions going on, and we want to make sure that the presentation flows. For those of you who do know a lot about App Inventor, I will just say right now that we're going to cover that for about 10 minutes. And so when we get to that point, if you would either like to come back and do something else for 10 minutes, that's fine. Or you can even answer some questions should they come up in the chat room about App Inventor, even better. So just letting you know that. So today we're going to dive into App Inventor and talk a little bit about why we recommend using it for Technovation. And we're going to go into what some of the resources that App Inventor Community has out there. I've especially curated a few things for you guys because there is a lot out there, and I found some things that I thought were pretty great and I think you might enjoy using. Also, we're going to talk about what is a killer app. What are some of the features of the apps that we know and love, and how can we convey design needs to students? How can we best help them design something that's pretty innovative, that it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but still has special features and conveys their passion about the problem. And we'll tie it all together and talk about how you can best coach and mentor them. And we'll touch back to a few of the resources we talked about in earlier sessions. And then finally, we have an exciting webinar for you guys next week if you should be interested in that. So stick around and you'll learn more about that. I thought I'd start off with a cartoon. We are celebrating Ada Lovelace's birthday. She would have been 200 years old in December, and this is a general celebration of women in computing, and we're going to be creating geeks in the making with our teams. And so I thought I'd show you one of Sydney Padua's illustrations. She just wrote a book about Babbage and Lovelace, and they're crime fighters, and it's such a great book, and it really inspires me. And I think we should just all celebrate the inner geek in all of us because that's what we're here to do. And just if you don't know much about her, she's the woman in the cartoon, and that's Charles Babbage next to her. And they have a prototype of his analytical engine. This was going to be the first all-purpose computer that would operate on Steam. That's only a little part of it. And she was actually writing some algorithms for that. And she became known as one of the world's first programmers. And she was the daughter of Lord Byron. And a really cool story about her is that her mother didn't want her to be like Lord Byron, to be a poet, because poets were of ill repute way back when. And she thought that if Ada learned science and math, that this would be an antidote to becoming a poet. And it turned out that Ada had a much bigger vision for Charles Babbage's analytical engine. She thought it could be an all purpose computer that would make music and art and really cool stuff. And she inspired a lot of the computer scientists that we know of today, like Alan Turing. And the movie The Imitation Game is all about him and artificial intelligence. So her legacy lives on, and it's really, really great. And she's one of my kind of inspirational heroes. So I thought I'd tell you about her. So I thought we'd kick off this last session with a little conversation about what your killer app is and why. I'm wondering if anybody here is nerdy enough to know who the guy in the picture is. If you do, feel free to put that in the chat room. If you don't, I'll fill you in. But I wanted to give you an idea of what a killer app is, because all the students refer to, the apps that they use as killer apps. No, it's not Bill Gates, but you're not too far off. Same era. Steve Jobs? No, he would have been wearing a black turtleneck or something. These guys are unknown, and this is also another interesting story. So this guy here is Bob Frankston, and he worked with a guy named Dan Bricklin way back when in 1979 on an app called VisiCalc. So it's a visible calculator, and you can see it that there's an Apple II. And this app was so important, people wanted to buy the Apple II just so that they could have this app called VisiCalc. And it transformed personal computers into devices that were like completely necessary, that turned computers into business tools. So for example, VisiCalc transformed 20 hours of work that someone would have been doing making spreadsheets into a 15-minute spreadsheet project. So that is what we're also talking about when we talk about killer apps, something that has transformed the world, has made computers into a tool for productivity, and just had a really huge effect on society. It looks so innocent, doesn't it? But actually, people were buying Apple IIs because they wanted this app. And, that's what sold it, really. Really, really interesting story. The irony and another learning lesson from them is that they didn't really make money off of VisiCalc. They would have had to pay $10,000 or something to get a patent for it. So they didn't patent it, and as a result, they ended up not really making much money off of it. But the positive side is they're really pleased with how much their app transformed society and the way people looked at computers. I bet if you asked any student today, what could you live without a computer or your smartphone, many of them would say no. So it's really, these things have had such an impact on us. I thought I'd take a moment to step back a little and ask you guys what your favorite apps are. I definitely have my own, but I would love to hear from you guys what your favorite apps are. So Google Maps, says Jeff. Yes. I mean, my gosh, imagine we didn't have GPS. Waze. Oh, yeah, I love Waze. It's so useful. YouTube, TripAdvisor. I mean, all of these apps really make really good use of the features that smartphones have, like GPS, email, my bank app, ChemTouch, and iConvert. Yeah, I have Lyft, Lyft. I know, lots of apps I can't choose. Me too. Yeah. Oh, Instagram. So yeah, it uses the camera capabilities. They use GPS. A lot of the things that we're talking about are things that your students will be able to do with App Inventor. So this is the point at which we talk a little bit about App Inventor, and the point at which those who are really deeply familiar with it can take a small pass right now. So a lot of people ask, can our students submit in a language other than App Inventor? Can their code be in Java? Can it be Swift? Yes, the answer is yes to all of that. But if your students don't know much about coding, if they're young and they don't have much experience, we really recommend using App Inventor. Technovation has been kind of partnering with App Inventor for a long time. I think our students were some of its first users when it was in beta. And so it's designed to have a very low barrier of entry. So the learning curve is not really huge. But you can use it to do all sorts of things. You'll see in just a little bit that you can use voice. So it can convert text into voice recordings. So I have a question here. What about Scratch? Scratch is a pretty low-level kind of learning language for pretty young students. So I would recommend trying App Inventor before you try Scratch, unless there's some reason that you really want to explore that. And we can talk about that offline. But yes, it doesn't produce a mobile app. It might be a nice a step when you're learning or trying to teach App Inventor to students. But correct, it won't produce a mobile app. So I thought I'd kick off our conversation about App Inventor and how it actually works by having you look at this image that's on the screen. What do you guys see? When you see these blocks, what do you imagine they do just by looking at it? You can use the chat room to let us know. You see that they're nestled inside each other. Yeah, it gives directions. Anything else? What does it say inside? Yeah, if-then logic. So if any of you are computer science teachers or people who know computer science, you'll notice some logic here. If and when, do this, do that. So App Inventor is an event-based kind of visual block language that you can drag and drop. And I wanted to just talk a little bit. Yeah, it says when button 1 is clicked. Just to go back a tiny bit, do you see a number inside? Oh no, you don't see a number. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit. So there are variables, and there's if and when, and it's event-based. So when you're setting up App Inventor, a lot of you might have iPhones, and that's totally fine because you can do this. You can use App Inventor. It's a cloud-based sort of service where you can connect a smartphone, or if you don't have an Android, you can use the emulator and work on that to see how the project you're working on looks in real time. So you can either have the Android and build the product on your computer, or the project and test it in real time on your Android, or if you don't, again, have an Android, you can use the emulator on your computer. This is what the app looks like if you're going into Google Play. It's not just the green, cute little robot, but it's also like a half robot and a puzzle piece. And the puzzle piece, actually, when you look back at that image before, they all fit together kind of like puzzle pieces. Susan says, I've used it with my Android phone, Android tablet, and even a Kindle Fire. Yeah. She also says, I'm not a big fan of the emulator. Well, some people are not. It's just there as an option just in case someone has an iPhone and they still want to drag and drop and create apps. And yes, some people say it crashes. It's true. And when you're working with students, this is something that you guys will need to get used to, unless you want to program in different languages, which is fine. But it's part of the process. Right now, sometimes I remember when Google Hangouts first came out and my phone calls and my meetings just kept getting dropped. It's kind of a frustration you deal with for a while until the team kind of fixes all the bugs and all that. But actually, we were using App Inventor at a Girls Make Apps workshop last weekend, and things went pretty well. We had some time where we had to get over a few things, but in the end, everyone had it up and running in about 10-15 minutes. So when you're looking in the Google Play Store, this is what it looks like. And I just wanted to familiarize you all with that. So there's a ton of App Inventor resources, and this is the kind of splash page you get to when you go to the MIT App Inventor site. And you can see that there's kind of 4 easy steps. I mean, I think they have it all organized pretty well here, actually. The first is the setup instructions, and it goes into detail about how to do that. And then there's a designer and blocks editor overview. So one thing I really love about it is that you get to see what the user interface looks like as you design. And then with the blocks editor, you get to actually manipulate the events and things like that and the properties of how something functions. So they also have a lot of beginner tutorials, and we're going to see one of those. And then finally, they go on to tell you how you can actually share the apps that are created with your friends and put them into the Play Store. So it's pretty nice. There's a lot of resources. After we see the tutorial, I'll share with you, we'll talk a little bit about what's involved with the blocks, what's involved with the properties, the user interface, and then I'll take you through some of my curated resources. So for now, let's take a look at this app tutorial.
Hi, welcome to App Inventor's Hour of Code. We're here at the MIT Center for Mobile Learning. I'm Shay.
And I'm Emily. Today we're going to show you how to build your first Android app.
Today's app is called Talk to Me because, well, it talks to you. It's quite simple. You press a button and the phone speaks a phrase out loud.
Welcome to App Inventor.
Can you make it say anything?
Pretty much.
I could have fun with this one.
Okay, let's get started. To get started building an app, click the Create button from the App Inventor homepage, appinventor.mit.edu. You'll need a Google account to log in. This can be a Gmail account or a school account if your school uses Google Apps for Education. You can dismiss this splash screen for now. When you go into App Inventor for the first time, you won't have any projects, so click New Project in the upper left. Our first app is called Talk to Me. App Inventor project names can have spaces, so type in Talk to Me with no spaces. Now you're in the design window, where you can set up the components and the layout of your app. Our app needs a button component, so click on Button, and then drag it over to the viewer, and then drop it. One of the neatest things about App Inventor is that you can see your app on your phone while you're building it. Let's get your phone connected so that you can see the app take shape and test it out as you go. Now, if you don't have an Android phone or tablet, you can still do this tutorial, but you'll need to pause this video and go read the instructions for starting an Android emulator on your computer. You can find out how to do that and also get lots of other helpful information by clicking on Guide. Now, to get your Android phone connected to App Inventor, go up to the Connect menu and choose AI Companion. You'll need to have the App Inventor Companion app on your phone or tablet. It's very easy to do this. Just click on Need Help Finding the Companion app? This takes you to the Google Play Store to download the app. The easiest thing to do is to open a QR code reader on your phone and scan the QR code. You could also go to the Play Store and search for MIT AI2 Companion. Okay, so once you've gotten the MIT AI2 Companion app installed, you'll need to start it up on your phone. If you've closed the connection window in App Inventor, click once again on the Connect menu and choose AI Companion. The connection window that pops up shows you a 6-character code and a QR code. On the Companion app on your phone, click the button Scan QR Code. If you don't have a camera on your phone, you can just type in the 6-character code and then click Connect with Code. Great! Now your phone is connected in real time to App Inventor. You should see the button that we've already added to the app. From now on, all of the changes you make to your app will show up on the phone right away. Seems like magic, right? Well, if you disconnected from App Inventor, you would no longer see the app on the phone. To get the app to stay on your phone, or to pass it along to a friend's phone, you'll have to package it up. But we'll talk about how to do that later. Notice that the button we've added says Text for Button 1 on it. Let's change that. Over here on the right is the Properties pane. This is where you can set the properties for all of the components in your app. To change the text that shows up on the button, click on Text and type in Talk to Me. Notice on your connected phone that the button's text changes there. Cool, right? Great. So we only need one more component for this app before we go into the blocks to start programming. Go to Media and drag out a text-to-speech component. Click on it, drag it over to the view, and drop it. You'll notice that it drops down to the bottom under Non-Visible Components. That's all for components. Now that we've set the components for our app, we need to specify what the components should do. For that, we click on Blocks. And now you're in the Blocks Editor. The Blocks Editor is where you click blocks together to set the behavior of your app. We want our app to respond to a button click, so go to Button 1 and see all of the blocks that go with a button. Choose Button 1.click and drop it in the work area. Now we have to put in the blocks to tell the app what to do when the button is clicked. Go to the text-to-speech component, click on it, and see all of the blocks that go with text-to-speech. Choose Call text-to-speech.speak and drag it over to the When Button 1.click block. It will fit right inside and you will hear a click when the blocks connect. I love that sound. Now we have one more thing to add before testing the app out. Notice that we have a blank socket here. We have to tell the speak block what to say. To do that, go to the text drawer under Built-in Blocks. Take a blank text block and bring that over. Click it right into the text-to-speech.speak block. Another satisfying click. Now click on that empty text block and type "Congratulations, you've made your first app." Okay, you can test the app now. Go to your phone and click the button.
Congratulations, you've made your first app.
If you had any trouble with this tutorial, you can view the written version on our website.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, see you later.
Wait, get back here.
Well, I thought the app would be a little cooler. I can talk to myself.
Patience, young one. Now that we know how to use App Inventor, possibilities are endless.
Can we make it respond to shaking?
Yeah.
Or let the user input their own text?
Absolutely. In fact, in our next video, that's just what we're going to do. We'll make it so that when someone shakes the phone, it talks, and also so that the user can put in their own text.
Awesome, I can't wait.
Okay, so if you guys want to after this, you can definitely do a Google search for the second part of the tutorial. I see a question from Ricky Martin. I don't have an answer about last year's team because I wasn't yet working here at Technovation, but it's possible Allie might have a response. And if not, definitely email us after this is over and we can try and answer your question. So I thought I'd ask you guys a few questions for those who don't know App Inventor well. So how do you test an app when you're developing it? So if you want to use the chat room feature, definitely go ahead and do that. Yes, one of the things that each girl needs to do to respond to Lori's question is whoever has the account that's dealing with App Inventor, if it's just one girl on the team, that girl will need a Google account, so a Gmail, in order to function with App Inventor. And thank you, Ellie, for answering Ricky's question. The other questions are, how can you install an app and build to your phone? What if you didn't have a phone but wanted to program apps? So I hope you all know the answer to those questions. And you can. You can use the emulator. Thanks, Susan. And then getting into the specifics a little bit, what were those two main windows we were looking at? What were their functions and what can you do with them? So if we look here, we'll get into that conversation really quick. This is just a really short overview, but what I really like, and I mentioned before, is that there's a palette. So you can click and drag stuff, and there's a blocks view, which you see to the right. My mouse is hovering over it. And there's a designer view. So when you're in designer view, it's like you get to play with the user interface and see what it would look like on the emulator. But then when you click on blocks editor, you get to go in there and manipulate the behaviors of the app. So it's pretty fun. And you could see when they were doing their tutorial that when you go into the palette for the user interface, which is over here, that you can bring out a variety of different kinds of blocks. And if you just play around in there, you'll see a lot of different options, which is really neat. Thanks for summarizing, Lily. Designer, where you make the app look pretty, and blocks where you make everything work. So it's like the age-old design versus engineering thing, but in this case, you kind of see it all together, which is really nice. And then again, here's a small description of what we saw. There's built-in drawers for the blocks when you go into the block function, and then also specific drawers, which are specific to components like variables, colors, lists, math, logic, content, buttons. So all the things that you think about when we make apps are pretty much built into this system already, which is why it's really nice. The learning curve is not steep, and the website has a lot of really good resources. So with that, I will point you in the direction of some resources I think are pretty valuable while you're in the program. Some of them are on our website. So if you go into the resources tab over here, you'll see that we have App Inventor Resources. Whoops. And it talks about concepts, blocks, components, troubleshooting. The troubleshooting is really worth taking a look at, possibly even printing out before you meet with your students on the days when you're dealing with the App Inventor topic and tutorials. And down here is a link to the MIT App Inventor Forum, and I really recommend that when your students have questions and you might not be able to answer them, to go to this forum, and the link I have also at the end of the presentation, to really reach out to the greater community. We've seen examples of students emailing the App Inventor team directly, and even though they love our program and they would love to help, the volume of requests that they could potentially be getting is just really high. So we're going to ask you guys to definitely point students in the direction of this forum and even use it yourself. Poonam asked a good question that we get often. Does App Inventor allow for multiple people to collaborate on an app so each student can work on different parts? Yes, they can share files. So we will have a more detailed kind of cheat sheet in response to that, but the answer is yes, the short answer. And besides our website, this is really neat. So I was exploring the App Inventor forum and places like that, and I found these great cards that you guys could download. If you look in the materials area of your control panel for this session, you'll see that I uploaded the PDF for this. And if you want to generate some learning experiences for your teams, I really suggest printing these out. So you'll see that on the top is blue, so there's numbers, and the blue corresponds to the green. So the blue is the front and the green is the back of the cards, and you cut them and you kind of tape or glue them together so that you could actually quiz students. You could use them as review cards. The 1 and 2 card, this is just a screenshot, Lori. So the 1 and 2 card is definitely included in the PDF. So I recommend going to the materials section of the control panel, and you can download it there and then print it out. After we're done with all these trainings, I'm going to send you guys a whole folder that has all the materials from each day. So don't worry if you can't capture it now. You'll definitely get it later. So these maker cards are neat because some of them talk about certain features like text-to-speech or speech recognition. Some of them are very basic, like how do I install App Inventor? So I think these are a fun way to talk about these things with your students. And then I found Course in a Box. I really liked it. It had a nice overview. You can see the modules here. Basically, the modules deal with different functionalities that are available in App Inventor. like building blocks, drawing, animation, game apps, texting and location. So you're going to want to help encourage your teams to use the features from their smartphones that make solving problems really good, like GPS or, you name it, whatever the problem is, however they're going to solve it. Think about what features smartphones in particular have so that you can make the most of that. You'll see on the left here that there's different other sections like what is App Inventor, learning nuggets, what are event handlers, what are conditionals. Some of these are concepts in computer science or computational thinking that your students should definitely get familiar with during the course of the curriculum. So I recommend that very much. And the community that I mentioned before, definitely reach out to them for any sort of support. There's really great tutorials, there's troubleshooting, they have areas of interest like educational issues, help getting connected, stuff like that, and the community gallery. And today, someone actually emailed me with a question like, should I study all the apps out there and try to convince my team to do something completely different? No, I would say if you tackled it from a perspective of what is the problem your students want to solve, let them think about this problem and do a little research on what apps already exist after they've identified the problem they're passionate about. Um, Definitely study what's out there as part of the curriculum, but don't let it deter you guys from pursuing a topic that might be handled a lot. Just for example, the other day I was looking for a Find My Car app because sometimes I park my car and, I forget where it is. And so I wanted to figure out which is the best app. And there were like 20 similar apps that I could have chosen from. And you'll want to see which ones get, high ratings, which ones have functionalities that you think are good. The aesthetics are going to be really important. So if there's many apps that address similar issues, it's okay to make an app because the whole point is also about learning, about changing their mindset to think that they can solve problems with technology. But just check out what's out there and think about what makes this app worth using. Does it look good? Is it aesthetically pleasing? So yeah, the App Inventor community is vast. And this is kind of an open sourcey community and people are really willing to step up and help. So please do, definitely. Okay, so can everyone hear me? I think I might have dropped out for a second. You can just say yes in the chat room if you can. That would be great. Oh, great. Okay. So let's go back a little bit to what we've been talking for the past few days. We learned a lot about the program. We learned a lot about student behaviors. Do you guys have any particular questions about what it means to be a coach and what success looks like? Have you guys thought a little bit about some of the character strengths you guys have and what you think you bring to bear to a team? It would be great if you could just list some of the really positive attributes that you guys have, because this is our last time together for our intensive training, and I just want to get to know you guys too. So Jennifer says organization. Public speaking. Oh, excellent. Thank you, Megan. I have a group of high school students, Leslie says, and they found the program and recruited me. Wow. Sometimes I feel like they're the leader. I'm a business teacher. That's incredible. I love stories like that. Susan says tech experience. Sylvia says project management, connections. Me too, I'm in middle school. I teach CS. That's Chinma. Jonathan says technology. Susan says I'm middle school too. Cool. So you guys all have really strong character strengths, and that's what I really find exciting about the possibility of students getting to work with you. Oh, Zoya is an Android app developer. Nice. Cool. So some of you have mentoring experience already, and I'm really happy to hear that. So just keeping in mind for the rest of our conversation today, what you think the positive attributes are. So high school and middle school, nice. Jeremy's a math teacher, excellent. So I thought I'd show you a little video that I found that you could use to explore with your students. This is a great one. It's all about the future of tech education. And the guy on the right is Hal Abelson, who is one of the inventors of App Inventor. And the woman on the left is a youth radio journalist. And they have a lot to say about making meaning and making an impact by creating apps. And so I'm going to play this here.
Oh, hi, I'm Hal Abelson. I teach at MIT. I've taught at MIT like forever. These days I'm visiting Google, and one of the things I did at Google was have the idea that Google ought to be able to make something that could put kids in control of all these smartphones and mobile technology. So we call that App Inventor, and that's what I'm doing now.
Hi, I'm Asha. I co-founded the App Lab here at Youth Radio. I started getting involved with the App Lab just because I was in the newsroom and I was writing a lot about technology and like how influential it was in my life and like related to different like social norms for teenagers. And collaboratively, at the end of the day, now we decided, well, young people are interested in technology. They're consuming it every day, but we actually need to give them some of the power to produce it. Their own technology. And so that's what started the App Lab.
Kids come to see themselves as creative and having expertise that matters to people. Mm-hmm. So they can make something that the community can use. And gosh, they are the ones who made it. They're the ones who are the experts. They're the ones who are in control. They're not just sort of using some some consumer product. And that's I think that's a lot of the vision of the Innovation Lab. It's not that the kids are innovating. It's that they're innovating around stuff that matters. So it's not merely that I'm doing some exercise in writing a computer program. It's that I'm really thinking about the society and the social milieu and what could I personally do with my friends that makes a difference. And that's different. That was not possible, gosh, even 5 years ago.
One of the benefits of having this app lab inside of what is a media company, and Youth Radio has been known for their like content. They're producing like great content, whether that be video or journalism or even music. It's like we create content. And I think the great thing about having like an app lab and this like little tech bubble inside of this content, like youth-driven powerhouse of sorts, is that we know how to make content. And I think with a lot of the apps that we do all this market research, it's like, how does it actually look? And what's in it? Like, is there something in this app that I'd want to use? Or is there something in this app that I'd want to read? Because you can have some apps that do cool stuff, but what is the like value in it? And I think that's the part you're talking about with the young people. It's like they're choosing what that value piece is. Is it just photos of your family? Is it stories that relate to where you are geographically? Is it I think that's the point.
When people ask me what's important to teach in computing, I say, think about what's worth making. And that's the thing that I want my MIT students to do. I want kids. It's not just can you code it up. Is there something that's worth making? And then you guys come and you think about it from a media perspective. What you'd really like is just think about the app as another medium where you have a lot of the same considerations. It's got to be aesthetically beautiful. It's got to be something that people are going to want to look at and want to use. So you're already thinking like that. And the idea of apps is just another medium to start doing that same kind of thinking in.
I think one of the challenges too is with the idea of iteration and with this, how do you keep. So you have this young person, they have this idea, they've invested in, they've done it. Okay, well, one of the first things you learn about computer programming, if it's App Inventor or whatever, is once you try it that first time, it might work, and the second time, it might not work. Exactly. And then how do you deal with that? I was working on this for 6 hours, and it was working, but now it's not working. You're like, well, you got to keep going. So I think that's one of the challenges, like keeping them motivated. And I think that's where the teamwork and the mentorship really come in to give like a lens into it. It's like if you had a startup, you know what I mean? I don't know what the success rate of startups is, but your product might be completely different from what your first prototype of it was.
Oh, that's what you have to understand, right? You might, as you develop stuff and as you think about stuff, it's going to be different from what you started with.
Keeping them motivated and then like accepting that your idea can change.
I'd love to see the kids here make something that's really, really is used around the country and around the world, and is looked at as a model for, gee, here's the creativity of this place, the power of mobile computing, and boy, it all came together, and there's something that made a difference. So that's my big one.
And then along with that, on a much smaller scale, I'm just always excited with the amount of young people we get excited about knowing or like coming in thinking one thing about what programming can be or what creation can be, and then watching that transformation and watching the girl that was quiet. Some of the girls are loud, and boys too, and they're like, I can't do it. And then to a point of, actually, I'm teaching the new students how to do this. I can do this. I'm putting on my college application. I'm reconsidering what I could do. Maybe that's computer science. Maybe that's research. Maybe that's design. But pushing them forward. And that's just like the young people that we get to work with, and then with some of our like curriculum and toolkits and outreach and workshops. I just love that moment where it's like, I didn't think I could do that, and I can, and I'm confident about that now.
So what pops into your mind? What really sticks out to you from this video with regard to being a mentor or a coach? There is a lot of really great content in that video, and I think it might be worth sharing with your students when you're in the process of discussing the kinds of problems they want to be solving. Just feel free to use the chat and write anything that really stuck out to you. Remembering that ideas can and will change. It's as much about the process as it is, about the outcome. That's exactly true. That's what I hope that you guys would take from this, as we were talking about the science of character and the growth mindset yesterday. Motivating the girls, trying to help them not just keep giving up. Remember how we discussed yesterday how a lot of fixed mindset sees that things, failure is just one end result, and you either succeed or fail. So being able to understand that everybody fails in some way or another, and they get around that and they move forward and they reflect on what they've been doing. Keeping the end in mind, keep hope alive. Yeah. Being patient with them, exactly. And creating social change through apps, definitely. One of the most powerful aspects of this program is that we're enabling girls to create social change with their own passions by having them create technology to solve problems. So that's really neat. Also, not just learning how to code, but a transformation of what they think coding is. So I'd like to ask you next, what are some of the design features? I mean, when we're talking about aesthetics, what are some of the considerations that we should maybe think about with them? I pulled together one of my favorite designers over time is named Dieter Rams, and he designed so many objects that are really simple, and he inspired Johnny Ives at Apple. Obviously, if you look at his designs, and I'm not saying everything should be overly simple, but I like some of the tenets of what he considers to be good design. So to go over them a little bit, it's innovative. So it's kind of blending two ideas and making it a new one or something new and useful. It's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but it's making something that's aesthetically kind of interesting and really just powerful because it's useful, This is what we were talking about with VisiCalc. So it was very powerful because it considerably brought the number of hours down that you needed to do stuff like spreadsheets, enabling you to do other things with your time. And it was pretty simple, long lasting. So does it stand the test of time? If something looks too mired in the time it's built, it gets kind of captured in time, and people might not want to use it over and over down the road. And then what I like at the very end is there's as little design as possible. But what I think was really meant there is that less is more. So you don't want to have an app that's overloaded with features. You want it, you want it to focus on some few key things that actually solve the problem. So this might help you set some parameters with the students when you see them starting to design apps that have a lot of functionality and a lot of features and like 20 screens. Some of the most successful apps have a very small handful of screens and they only do a few things. I mean, Lyft is an example of that, or Uber, because it's providing very specific service and therefore it doesn't need a whole lot of other features besides getting that job done. So that's something to consider, definitely. I wanted to come back to what success looks like for you, because I think it's really important when we're talking about student behaviors and how you can understand when you're making an impact with them and how you can know when they've been learning. So can anybody remember back to yesterday when we were talking about the growth mindset and character strengths like you guys have? I think it's worth thinking about, have you got any stories about people who have affected you profoundly, who were mentors or coaches to you? Because we want you to be the coach that you always wanted, right? I'm kind of rounding it out with a comic of Ada Lovelace here. And her mentor was actually a woman at a time when women were not really in computing. And they were just kind of going against the grain. And she was looking for a mentor, and her mentors were tutors. So mathematician tutors were women. And I just like this because in the end, she's kind of begging to be taught. And I think a lot of us have this natural instinct to want to learn and be lifelong learners. And I'm just trying to figure out how we can think about becoming lifelong learners ourselves and being a mentor, also being able to learn from the students. Are you guys feeling confident that you're going to be doing a good job as a mentor or coach? Do you guys have any questions? What does success look like to you, besides obviously submitting the deliverables in the end and helping the students? What more can you do with them to make them feel successful? Ignacio says he'll let us know in a few weeks. Good. Have any of you worked with students with the Technovation Challenge before? And do you have any stories to share about a moment of success or a really hard moment that we can all learn from? Because that is also another great source of information. I definitely suggest that you guys look at Tiffany Schlane's Science of Character movie. It's an 8-minute video that was included in yesterday's presentation. And when I send out the link at the end with all the folders, you should definitely check it out. It talks all about how to become a more creative person. Lori's asking to say that again. So Tiffany Schlane, I'll type the Science of Character. If you Google that, her video will come up. It's all about what characteristics make people lifelong learners and contribute to a growth mindset. So I really recommend that. Chinma says, success. 2 of my teams made the honorable mention in 2013. That's great. So one of the things we also hear is that my team submitted deliverables and we had a great time working on it. It was very challenging. They didn't make it to the semifinals and they're kind of disappointed. What do you guys think that you could do as mentors or coaches to help them feel a continued sense of accomplishment, even if they don't make it to the semifinals? Chinma says, last year, some of my teams did not submit last year. That's really interesting. Can you let us know, Chinma, what was going on? What do you think might have contributed to your teams not making it to the end? They did not make the deadline. It is challenging. There's a lot going on in 3 months, and so you're going to want to start up ASAP with them. Some of them were AP students, he says. Yeah, I mean, when you guys see students bumping up against roadblocks in their progression through the program, it would be great if you could contact us in the Google groups that we've created for mentors and coaches, because we really want to know when these instances are occurring so that we can help you guys jump in and get the students back on track and motivated. Adriana says, one way we can help is to organize a regional presentation and present the media in your hometown. I think that's a great idea. As we mentioned in the previous sessions, there's a lot of activity going on after the submissions are delivered. There's formal pitch nights and stuff like that, and there's informal stuff too. So if you notice that a big formal pitch night is not happening in your region, I really suggest trying to form something with your own team and celebrate. And even if they don't make it to the semifinals, just talk it out with them. Take the time to sit and actually recap what they did, focusing on some of the positive aspects, encouraging them to continue working on their apps, because the whole point of this is also for them to launch their app in either Google Play or the Apple thing. So, letting them know that it's not just ending with this because they've solved a problem in their community. Some of the neat things that I feel happen are the teams get to meet some politicians, or if they're out working in the community, interviewing the community about their app and what their needs are, keep them connected to that community. There could be a possibility that they want to work with the students, So other comments are celebrating the accomplishment, Lori says, by having a culminating event, have STEM programs for them to go after to keep them interested until the next one. Yeah. Excellent. Time management always seems to be a challenge, definitely. We had a time tracker worksheet or spreadsheet template that I shared yesterday, and definitely look for that in the materials again that I'll send out. Jonathan says, I think one of the most important things that students can do is to reflect upon their experience. Judges' input would be valuable. Yes, reflection on their experience is totally important. And in Unit 12, after the submission, I'm going to be adding more to the curriculum and encouraging guys to have these conversations with them about their reflections, because the growth mindset also, again, focuses on the process and not just necessarily the outcomes. Thanks for answering Jeff's question. The question is, are 2-hour sessions good? 2-hour ones. And that seems to work for some teams. Other teams might want to just have a powwow and meet one day a weekend and work hard. So yeah, hometown recognition is really good. So encouraging the students to remain connected to their community is really, really important. And it's one of the goals of the program. It's all about community problem solving and helping girls see that they're not just coding, but they're creatively problem solving and helping them change their mindset. So we have just a few more little housekeeping items, and then I'll be saying thank you. But the next steps for you guys would be to register if they're not already. Please register as either a coach or a mentor. We're still seeing questions like, am I a coach? Am I a mentor? If you are someone who works in the tech field and you have time to share your expertise, then I would sign up as a coach. If you are an educator, I would sign up as a mentor if you're a tech person in the field. Sign up as a coach if you're an educator. That seems to be a very good sort of guideline. And the next thing you can do this month, if you're in the Bay Area, is to go to a Girls Make Apps workshop. We're doing a lot of these. There's a lot of interest. During these, we brainstorm with students about the problems they want to solve, get them going with a paper prototype, thinking about the user, and then they also learn aspects of App Inventor through tutorials. So that's really important to kickstart the season. Also, field trips are really important. If you are a mentor and you can open your doors to students to come in either virtually and just give them a tour with like Google Hangout or something with your webcam, or better yet, have them come in person, maybe for an hour, maybe for 2 hours, and show them projects you're working on. Talk about how you solve problems at your job and the kinds of problems you're solving, stuff like that. That will really get them interested in you, and it will open, trust. They'll trust you really well if you bring them in and show them a little bit about your life and talk about what it's like to work in the tech industry. That's an experience that you really have to offer them that they won't probably have for many other people. So take advantage of that. And then if you can watch Code Girl, you should definitely do it. Right now it's for free on Mashable on the website. I'll type it in the chat room. I'm not sure how much longer it'll be free. It's not really expensive to buy the movie on the Code Girl website, Code Girl movie website, which I'm also putting in the chat. So definitely watch this because it shows a really dramatic story about all the girls from different regions of the world who came to World Pitch and what all was involved with them making their app, but then, the kind of drama that was unfolding as they came to World Pitch. Really exciting. Allie says in the chat, I think teams should form based on the ideas they're most excited about. Yeah. Their passion really needs to come through. When you were looking at the demo video yesterday of Team Mika, their passion was pretty in the front. I mean, it was in the forefront. And if a team isn't passionate about a problem and solving it, that's going to come through. Creating an app just to create an app is not really going to cut it here. They need to be exhibiting some kind of, urgency or some real reason why they want this problem solved. So linking it to the real world. So reminder to join the Google groups. I know there's been a lot of people joining the coach one over the past few days, and I'm really psyched about that. So thank you. There's one for mentors too, and the links are here. And definitely join the App Inventor community and the Google group and encourage your students to do that. Please ask them to do that rather than reaching out to the App Inventor team directly because they probably could not handle the sheer volume of all the questions that Technovation teams are going to have for them. So I would love for you to do that. And the last thing I want to say is we're going to launch a series of webinars that will help you guys be supported throughout the curriculum. They'll take place probably weekly, maybe not. We're still working on a schedule, but the first one is next Wednesday, which is a week ago yesterday, January 20th at 4 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. So if you're in a different time zone, you're definitely welcome to join, but definitely cross-reference what time it is in your time zone. I'm going to send a link out to that in the email I send right after this. So please register. It's going to be all about problem identification and brainstorming solutions. And a lot of people have been writing to me this week and saying, my teams are already jumping to solutions. We don't really have the problem figured out. And what we're trying to do here is to help you learn strategies to have conversations with your teams so that they go deeper into what the problem is and why they're passionate about it. So please join us. Do you like the picture of Darth Vader with his Death Star? It's supposed to be him kind of brainstorming. It's really cute. And finally, thank you. We so appreciate that you joined us for the past 3 days. Hopefully you were able to make all 3. If not, don't worry at all because we're going to send out an email with links and links to all the videos from the recordings. And also I'm sending out a folder with all these materials. So you will not be lacking in materials. And you can email me for coach-related stuff, and you can email Allie for mentor-related stuff. And if you got 5 minutes after this, we would love for you to fill out the survey so we can better serve you guys during the course of the year, or the 3 months, I mean, and also improve our trainings for the future. So thank you guys so much. I hope to keep seeing you in the Google groups, and I hope to see you at the webinar next week. Bye.